Okay, welcome Michael Sloper, who's going to be talking to us about Quill.js and integrating with FileMaker. So I've been working with Michael for a couple of weeks. We've been talking about this file that he put together, and I've been using it in a solution of mine, and I've added some features to it, and I'm going to be talking about that later. But he's going to go through this file that he graciously made available to the community. It's a really cool way to extend um, an editing, what would you call it, a rich text editor in a FileMaker web viewer. So take it away, Michael.
All right. Well, just a little bit about myself. I've been in the FileMaker community, roughly 15 years. I was an IT director at a law firm where Matt Navarre was our FileMaker consultant, and this was in the early 2000s. And so, Matt would come and we'd work on the database together. And, I left that position and I basically, asked Matt for a job, and we started working together. And I essentially became a FileMaker developer working at Pre1 with Matt. And then I worked at Fiddlehead Software for a while, and then Pre1 again. And then just in the last few years, I've started my own company, Sloper Data, where and so that's what I'm currently doing. I've tried to just focus on web integrations in the past. And so I'd build web portals and, did a lot of custom web publishing with PHP. And then recently, at Pre1, we rebuilt our system so that it could be usable over WebDirect. And so I'm a big proponent of WebDirect. I think there's some huge advantages of using WebDirect, especially in a large system where trying to rewrite it for the web is just impossible. One of the issues we ran into at Pre1 was, and Pre1 builds newspaper software. And so some people still sell classified ads. And so we had a text editor in our FileMaker solution, basically a big text block where you could enter in the classified ad and then add styling to it and for upcharges. So when we were rebuilding the system for WebDirect, we didn't, because WebDirect doesn't allow rich text in their text fields, we were kind of stumped at that point. So we needed a solution for that. And so at the time I had looked into Quill, and before FileMaker 19 and before we had these tools to pass data back and forth between JavaScript, between the Webviewer and FileMaker, it was really difficult to implement Quill in FileMaker because you needed some other piece. We were looking at like pushing data back and forth to Amazon, to an Amazon database, so stuff like that, and it just wasn't really viable. So we're kind of stuck, and we didn't, and because classified ads, nobody basically sells classified ads anyways anymore. We kind of just, didn't allow that, didn't let them style in a text field. So then once FileMaker 19 came out, I knew with the JavaScript integration, we realized, okay, we could do this. And so I thought, okay, I'd love to implement that. And then I'd also like to make a demo for showing just how kind of how low code it is to do this. So that's the goal with this demo. It is one, just for WebDirect, a rich text editor in WebDirect, and then two, just showing, how simplistic it is to do JavaScript integrations. So just to start to show, I guess I'll show my desktop. Does anybody have any questions at this point? All right, so let me share.
Did you have previous web experience before you started doing it?
Yeah, I didn't. I had experience with Java and some programming languages in college. I was a computer science major, and so one of the things with computer science, probably the best thing you learn, or at least I learned, was just the confidence of being able to pick up a new language. And so when I became a FileMaker developer, PHP is similar to Java in some ways, and so that was, I worked on web portals with PHP, and nowadays when you do build web, any web project, you're implementing JavaScript libraries. Your web project is, you might have like 15 different integrations or 10 integrations with JavaScript libraries. So yeah, so I did have experience with working with JavaScript. So yeah, so let me show my screen. Okay, so here's my demo, the demo file, and you can get this on my website, sloperdata.com. You can download it there. Okay, so over here is our Quill text editor. And so this is kind of, it's basically a WYSIWYG text editor. So you can style text, by choosing the headings or italicizing, and so then on the right-hand side, I'm also grabbing the plain text and also the HTML. So if we italicize this, it'll add our italics tag into our HTML. So if we type, it'll add, so we're grabbing our HTML and our plain text from this Quill text editor. So behind the scenes, first I wanted to show you just the FileMaker scripts. So there's essentially two scripts on the FileMaker side. There's a save text script, which is basically just taking in as parameters, our two attributes we're getting from the Quill object and setting them to our fields. So we have save text, and then we have load text. So this runs when each time the record loads. And so all this is doing is running our new script, our new JavaScript, perform JavaScript in Webviewer. And if we look at this script step, we have an object name, which is we set on the Webviewer object. We have the function name. So this is, we'll see this later, but this is declared inside our Webviewer. And then we have a parameter. So we're just passing our demo HTML field to the Webviewer so that to load it into the Quill text editor. So now there's a couple things WebDirect wise. So one of the issues that it's just there's a little bit of timing issues with this if you move between records too fast, and especially, and then also on WebDirect. So I put in this little it's kind of a little hack just to kind of slow things down as you're loading, so that the Quill web viewer can load correctly. Okay. So then if we just see as we move between records, and I show the tech, my debugger. So we're grabbing the demo HTML field data and sticking it into the web viewer each time this record loads. Does anybody have any questions about that? Is that pretty straightforward so far?
Michael?
Yes.
So I've just downloaded your demo file from your website. Thank you, nice website, and clean and simple. So this is all going to be self-explanatory pretty much if I explore the demo file about how the code works?
Yeah, I believe so. It's that's what I'm hoping.
Okay, and there's some custom functions in there as well, right?
There should not be there's not any custom functions.
Okay.
There is the data, the graph is just the one table.
I saw you referencing something in a script that's, I thought, can you look at that scripting I thought was indicating was it? So that function set FMHTML, is that actually part of a?
That's in the JavaScript.
Right, so we're going to look at that here in a second, but that we've written that function, JavaScript function, inside our web viewer.
Yeah, so that's a 19 solution. Did you have a solution before 19? That before JavaScript and WebViewer came out in 19?
That's right. No, I did not have a solution to do this in before 19.
Okay.
Somebody actually, I think, Todd Geist at Geist Interactive, they had a product. We're using Quill to do this prior to 19, but it didn't support WebDirect. So for me, that was, to me, I was only interested in this as far as, mainly with WebDirect, because you could do this in FileMaker outside of WebDirect, or at least some of it anyways. Okay, so John, do you have any other questions, or we can look at this set FMHTML function here.
That was the only interest I had, was to figure out what that means.
Okay.
Talking to a non-JavaScript educated person.
Okay. So I might actually,
if I may mention, Michael, I picked this up and I looked at your code that this code that you're showing us right now, and I was able to figure it out pretty easily. And I'm not a JavaScript guy, so
good.
So I think John Howell would be able to figure it out as well. But if you just could go through it briefly, it'll become real obvious real quick.
Okay. Yeah. So the web viewer code. So here's the other meat to this solution. So I just copied it into a text editor so we can see it better. I'm just going to cancel out of here and bring up my text editor. I like working in a text editor. Obviously we can see it a lot better. So when you, you know, so there, one of the things you need in Webviewer when you're implementing kind of local code is this data colon text / HTML. It's just something that's, you know, you need that. So that's part of that. So now we have, you know, our typical web page stuff. We have an HTML tag, a head tag. In our head tag, we want to bring in the JavaScript library that we're using. So we want to bring in both the style sheets and the JavaScript library. So here is the style sheets, quill.snow.css. And if you go to the Quill.js website, you know, and most JavaScript libraries, you know, that if you want to implement, they'll typically have this like a how to implement this library. And usually it's, you know, you need the CSS and you need the JavaScript. So this is sort of standard, you know, if you're implementing a JavaScript package or library, you'll need that. So walking down the script, so here's just some style tags that we don't need to worry about. And then here I'm declaring my just a div. So, you know, what we're calling editor. So when I initialize the Quill editor, I need to pass that when I'm initializing this JavaScript. So down here where we initialize the Quill, we're just saying, okay, I'm going to make a new Quill, instantiate a new Quill object. So here we go, new Quill, and we're calling, you know, what our name of our div is. And then these are just kind of like configurations for Quill, which is we're going to have bold, italics, underline, image in our header and our theme. So all this is kind of, if you go to the Quill.js website, you'd be able to, you know, they would have like examples and they'd show you how to do this. So then here's the kind of the piece that I implemented, which is, okay, what I wanted was every time, you know, I'm typing, let's go. Every time I type in here, I wanted the same sort of functionality as what FileMaker gives us, which is, you know, as I'm typing, I am, you know, I'm like, I wanted, as, you know, as you type, I wanted that to update our field. So if you watch, so you can see that it's working. Every time I type, it's setting these two fields. So I'm getting that by doing this on text change function. So on our Quill object, I'm saying, okay, on text change, run this function. And so I create a variable. So Quill has, on my Quill object, you know, there's various attributes. And so I can get the text, I can get the inner HTML. You know, there's some other stuff you can get, you know, based, which we'll probably see later with Jonathan when he shows his demo with getting where the cursor is at. But so I grab the text, and then here's something really important, is when I pass it to FileMaker, I need to kind of turn it into a string, which serialize it, I think is the right word. So basically escape, you know, the various quotes, and so that I can pass it to my FileMaker script. So that's what I'm doing here with the HTML, is I stringify it, and then I create this little JSON object, text JSON, and I pass it to my save text FileMaker script. So this is what's happening each time I type a character inside my text editor. So I'm grabbing the plain text, I grab the HTML, I stringify it, and I pass it to my file. I create a parameter and I call my FileMaker script. So next, the only last bit of it is, okay, well, how do we set this? How do we set the web viewer text from our FileMaker field? And this is what we saw earlier, and what John asked about was the set FMHTML function. So here I'm just declaring a simple JavaScript function, set FML_HTML. It takes in HTML and it just sets it to this attribute inside the Quill object, inner HTML. Yeah, so does anybody have questions about that? Or
Which parts are the new FileMaker things that make this possible?
so, yeah, good question. So on our web viewer, this little checkbox down here, which is allow JavaScript to perform FileMaker scripts. So that's got to be checked. And then this script, and this script is a little different. This script step, this perform JavaScript in WebViewer. So the object name is WebViewer. So I think it's WebViewer is the name of the object. If we look at the script step, you know, when I first saw the script step, I thought, what is this? Because, well, do you see how they have the parameters down here? Like this is sort of a different FileMaker-y thing we haven't seen before. You know, you can pass parameters, and you can have multiple parameters. So that is pretty interesting. I mean, are we finally going to get a parameter passing in regular FileMaker? Maybe.
But that one script step is the thing that is new to 19 that lets you easily get information out of the web viewer and back into FileMaker. That did not exist before 19.
That is true. This did not exist before 19, and this really only gets you, you know, how I'm using it is it's getting information from FileMaker to the web viewer.
The returning the value from the JavaScript call was possible with plugins. It still is.
Okay. Which plugin is that? Is that Base Elements or?
Base Elements, I think Monkey Bread has one. The Reactor one from down in New Zealand. I don't remember the name, but
Goya? No.
Yeah.
Goya
Is it in Australia?
is
Wheat
B.
Bix, Team DF.
Yeah.
Oh, Digital Fusion. Yeah,
Yeah.
they had the Reactor
Yes.
plugin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my other,
Yeah. I mean,
Michael, if I may.
Yes.
So I noticed that you're making HTML calls, go out on the internet and retrieve the styles.
library. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you wouldn't see a speed increase if you brought that code natively onto your layout. You can have it off screen as an object and call that object, and whether that wouldn't speed up flipping between pages.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I definitely think that would be, you know, there's, you know, how to do that would be, you know, is definitely, I agree, 100%. I think, you know, I think that's probably why I need this freeze pause.
Mhm.
It's because each time it's downloading that, you know, I don't have a sense of whether it gets cached or not. But yeah, I mean, if this was more, you know, there's a couple different ways to do that. I'd probably just you know, have a table of, you know, and yeah,
I've seen people put that data into container fields, into standard
yeah,
text fields. Just have just an object, a layout object that's a box that you copied and pasted the text into. You label that
yeah.
object, and then you can call for the object attribute, you know, get function, and load that stuff in.
Well, it's nice to, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different ways, you know, I've seen it done. And one of it is exporting it as a, you know, a library. It's nice to have it, you know, to the temp folder. I think that's how, at least they used to a long time ago, Seed Code used to do it with theirs, with their calendar, because that's just one big web viewer. And so they have more, you know, they have HTML and JavaScript and CSS files. So they'd export them locally to a temp folder and just call them locally. It's nice to be able to work with them as separate as what they come down as, and not necessarily inside a FileMaker field. But there's also advantages to that. There's, you know, in the past, I've messed with building little like FileMaker sort of JavaScript ways to implement these sort of things. And, you know, there's just a lot of ways to do it. This is by far the easiest way to do it, which is why I did it. But I think speed-wise, I think you're right. I mean, finding a different solution for that is great. I mean, the nice thing about this is, you know, it's also, you know, many of these libraries will just have like a latest, a path to the very latest one. So, you know, you can either always get the latest, or you can always get one version. So there's some nice, you know, benefits of just grabbing it each time.
Well, there is a hazard with getting the latest, is that it can potentially break your code if it's a major
Exactly.
revision.
Yeah, that's true too. So, so yeah, that's certainly one way people implement these, is they, you know, you export things to the. I mean, I think that's how I would do it if I was taking this further. Is I would, you know, have the files in a table, and then just export them to my temp directory and access them directly from there, instead of, you know, from a field. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you could also download it on startup. You know,
Right.
you could go, if you wanted the latest one all the time, just download it on startup and then access that each time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say at this point though that the other thing was the calling the FileMaker script from within the text. That's the other part of that's new with 19, isn't it?
Right. That's true.
The
This.
FileMaker perform script, that is not a JavaScript. Or that is
Yeah.
not part of the library. That is a FileMaker addition to the web viewer with 19 that allows you to do this kind of stuff.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So you got the two sides that FileMaker gave us: the calling the JavaScript from FileMaker, and then calling the FileMaker script from JavaScript. So that
Right.
you get the round trip that way.
Right.
And once you put those together, there's really no limit to what you can do with JavaScript in a web viewer.
Right.
Unless you don't know that much JavaScript like me. So
Yeah, but I mean, I think, here you don't really need, and you'll find with quite a few of these libraries, there's the difference between creating your own JavaScript sort of library versus implementing a JavaScript library is night and day. I mean, implementing a library is not too difficult. There's just
right.
some few things that you need to do.
And I will say the documentation for Quill.js is really good. So I was able to figure out quite a few things by just looking at the documentation.
Yeah.
And
Any other cool?
yeah, I was going to say, because you've already done the basic part, basically all I had to do was copy what you did, make a few tweaks to it so that I could do new features. So I got all the syntax and everything the way you got it set up here. And so I didn't have to figure that out. So that was really good.
Okay. Yeah, so, I was going to show you just in WebDirect. Oh, let me just log back in. So here it is in WebDirect. So I just wanted to show, oh. My record is committed. Okay. So that is something, you have to, record locking could be an issue with this. So you do have to, think about that if you're, as you have more than one person in this, in your system. So I just wanted to show you, yeah, this does work in WebDirect. It updates our fields.
That was kind of nice that FileMaker's native spell checker is usable in that Webviewer. When you
Yeah.
when you put in Sloper lowercase, it wanted to correct you, which is
yeah,
that's
that is an advantage. I mean, I know John has really championed WebDirect, and I do feel kind of the same way, that there's it's underappreciated. I feel like FileMaker, I'm hopeful they put more resources into it. Claris will put more resources into it, because I found that a lot of as a company wants to implement a new solution, I mean, just when they don't have to worry about their own server, and like if you're hosting it for them, or you have a hosting company, or there's just quite a few advantages with WebDirect. And so if any of you haven't really experienced that, you should.
That's music to my ears, Mr. Sloper. That's what I was saying last year at DEF CON, very explicitly in my session, that WebDirect does not capture the respect and appreciation of the community that it should. It's an incredible tool. We use it a lot.
Well, it has gotten better, you have to admit. The early implementations of it were really clunky. And
Well, I worked
a lot of
with it
things
in 13, and
it
it was not optimized, but even in 13, it was a pretty cool tool. But now it's pretty contemporary.
Yeah.
I've got a brand new project with WebDirect that I couldn't do without it. Right. So I just want to thank you for your contribution to saying that people need to appreciate it more. There's a lot there.
And I think the
Yeah.
barrier to entry for WebDirect is high cost. If Claris scaled that down a little bit, I think we have better adoption.
Well, I think end users just, I think I'll speak, this is what I think is just that end users like not, I mean, just, and IT people, you know, to not have to deal with, you know, FileMaker at all, just using a web, you know, their web browser is a huge from an IT perspective, you know, as with pre-1 where we're implementing our solution for companies, you know, it's a vertical and it's newspaper software. They don't care about FileMaker. They just are, here's the newspaper software solution. We host it for them. All they do is, you know, they just go to a URL and log in. I mean, that's a big advantage over installing, you know, having them to, you know, have, you know, buy a server and the IT install FileMaker and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you know, there's other advantages to doing that too, but anyways, that's my 2 cents on WebDirect. And yeah, if anybody else has any other, if no one else has any other questions, then we can see what Jonathan cooked up.
How did you put in the image?
Well, I haven't put in an image. I don't have an, oh,
right
this
there.
one. I think this is actually a URL. I didn't, but you can pick an image locally and do this. I think Jonathan is going to show us this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can say that for him.
Yeah. I'll talk about the image issues because I discovered some gotchas. So,
okay.
Then let me share my screen. Wait a minute. Let's make sure I'm on the right layout. Oh, I got a mess here. I have to clean my living room here. Okay. Let me share my screen. Excuse me. Didn't want to cough in your ears there. Okay. So what I created was a function where I've got a client who said that, oh, by the way, my name is Jonathan Fletcher. Alan and I are the co-coordinators of the Louisville group, the Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group, as it's officially known. And we've been doing this since 2009. We've been going every month. I think we missed like maybe 2 months in that entire time. But anyway, I should fix that. Sorry. I just added that and my OCD can't let that stay. Okay, so anyway, a client asked me, said, well, we want to be able to edit letters in FileMaker. We want it like Word. You know, Word is great for mail merges and being able to do lots of text formatting and stuff. And so I looked around for a solution, and the add-on from FileMaker 19 works. But I saw Michael's solution. I go, oh, well, let's play with that for a while. So, that's what I've implemented here. So we've got various letters here, and you can see there's signatures in there. We'll get to that. But basically, it's the same thing that Michael had set up. Now, you'll notice that the buttons here at the top are different than, I was going to show you this later. The buttons at the top are different than what Michael had, is because when you go into the programming for the configuration for the Quill JS, you can specify different things that you want. And so I just have a different set of items specified here. And you will notice that I actually have a couple of different versions of it. So what I've got here is that if you click anywhere on here, it takes you to a card window where you have a lot more things to play with up here, and then some other things that I built to create merge fields. So this up here. So if I want to say I want to put full name up there, or and then maybe job title. So I can add. Oh, and it took out my space, didn't it? If you want to add merge fields, so this is basically going to be a repository of form letters that they can call for a particular purpose. Say, hey, I want this letter for this person, and it fills in the information. And so that's what these merge fields are for. And then down here, if I hit a, excuse me, I'm going to mute myself for a second here. Okay, nobody wants to hear the COVID hack. So if you select one of these signatures now, let's look at that. I've got a couple of things here. I've got the listing of the available merge fields and the field that it gets the data from. And then also over here, I've got all these signatures. So I just copied a bunch of signatures in. The trick, and the reason why I had to do this way, is because I want the client to be able to drag a signature in and just have it work. The problem is they may scan it at wildly different sizes. So what this does is it scales everything down to approximately 200 pixel width to 100 pixels high, or thereabouts, or some semblance of that, so that you've got a fairly consistent size of the signature. So like if they had somebody here sign your name on this piece of paper, and somebody signs it really big and they scan it in and they throw it in there, the Quill JS just grabs that graphic and sticks it in there, so it could just like fill the page with a signature, which would look really bad. So what I had here was a drag and drop that then runs the thumbnail function and resizes all of the signatures so that they're roughly similar to work with. Okay, so we were over here, and so let's go and look and see what we had here. So if I want to put in that signature, it sticks in not only the signature itself, but the title that was attached to it. I think we had Bill in there. Oh. So among the other things that are available up here, see, you've got the picture. You can go and I can go and get a picture and stick it in there. What do we got that's useful? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Yes, that is indeed Ron Howard. Something that you don't recognize here is that is me. And this is about like 45 years ago. We were both kids.
What happened?
Yeah, I know. We both had hair back then, which is kind of funny.
How did you meet him? And that's not a wax figure, right?
No, that's really him. I was photographing an event back at the time, and and he was there, and I was taking pictures of him with everybody, so I got a picture of him and me at the same time. So, but anyway,
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
but the thing is, you can stick a graphic in here, but you see it fills the page. So there's no control within Quill.js to control the size of the graphic that you bring in. So that's why I set up this signature thing where it pre-sizes all the signatures that they drop in. Although if they want to then also stick a picture in there, they can do that. And then this come on. You can also I'm just showing you some of the other features of Quill.js. You've got a link thing here, so you can say here, let's put in, oops. I think that'll work. And then, so you can put a link in there, and when you create a PDF, it'll keep that. Obviously, if you print it out, it won't keep it. But anyway, so there's some of the other things you can do in addition to, bold and italic and working with different styles, different font types and stuff. Now you can get real elaborate with your CSS so that these things actually mean more, but this is just a rough and tumble approach at this point. You have also got numbered lists and bulleted lists and superscript and subscripts and like outline formatting and stuff like that. So you can do all kinds of things with this. So it's almost a word processor, but there's still a few things missing. Well, in addition to the signatures and the merge that I've added. But let me show you how we did those. Okay, so I'm gonna get this layout for this entry card. So what I did was I went into the code and I made some modifications to Michael's code. Now the toolbar options, what I did was I went in and I looked at the documentation, and so I added some more things. This is in the API documentation for Quill.js, and so these are just things that I copied and pasted out of their documentation to add additional features at the top of the that goes up here at the top of the web viewer for the controls. The next thing I did, so here is Michael's on text change. And so this is identical to what Michael has. So basically, anytime you change the text, it writes it out to an HTML field and a text field. So it writes plain text, and then it also writes the HTML with all the formatting and everything in it. So you could use either one. And then the other thing I did was I found a function called selection change. And so what this does is every time the cursor changes to a different location in the text, what it does is it sends out to FileMaker. It calls a FileMaker script called Quill Save Range, this one right here. So there's a FileMaker script, and then it sends the parameters. And so what it does is what it sends is the location of the cursor to a script, and then what that script does is it just saves it as a global variable for later use. And then and then down here is we have the oh, okay, yeah, and then here, this is the set fmhtml, which Michael already had, and then the next thing was when I ran a script button to set a merge variable, what it would do is it would run this function, which is basically a script within the JavaScript that says, okay, here's the text that we're sending. Here's the HTML that we're working with, and then we're going to insert in the it combines. Wait a minute, set merge variable text. Yes. So this one will save a copy of the HTML with the merge variable, with that merge field set within the text at the insertion point. And then there's the graphic one where it uses where it creates the. You know what? You probably can't see that very well. Does that get bigger for everybody, or does it just look ugly?
We can see it fine.
Okay, so so what this does here is it takes the. Okay, so what this does is it calls. You have to forgive my mind isn't working real smoothly today. It's a double thing where it has to go both ways, because it sets the merge variable. Oh, I know what it does. Yeah. So basically, this is the same thing as setting the merge variable up here. Is it calls the insert embed, which is what we're using. Okay, this is insert. Oh, yeah, never mind. This is not used. This was going to be a graphic. Yeah, I forgot about that. This doesn't work. So what I had to end up doing was I stuck a merge text in and then substituted it. And I'll show you the script that does that. So basically, where I wanted the graphic to go, I just put signature. So so that was. So let me show you that script. Sorry about that. I should have taken this out before, because this isn't used anymore. So what happens on should pull that back up again. When you set the merge variable text, it then saves it. It does this Quill save text again, with the same thing that was done before, only now it has the merge variable in it. And so that same script, that Quill save text, we'll go look at that. That's the one where this stuff happens. The save text. Is anybody else having this problem with 19 where the script names don't spread out until you?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
no. bug.
Okay. Yeah.
Are,
Thanks.
so are you
Thanks,
saving
Claire's.
that merge, just the text
I'm
right into the HTML?
Just saving the text into the HTML, right?
Okay.
And so then what I do is when I come back to the save text, I send the parameters that get sent are the HTML and the plain text, just like before. And actually, this is the same script, but down here, if I have saved image code, which is something that I saved when I click that button, the this button here uses the Quill insert, and then it has a this first one is the image code. It's the signature. If there is something in there, then what it does is it, oops, come on. Where'd it go? There. Then what it does is it looks for that HTML body and substitutes the image code where that merge variable was. So the image code gets created when you somewhere. Yeah. So it has that. So you set up a merge variable. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Is when you hit that. No. Right. So it sends the ID and that it's a document to, oh, Quill insert. That's right. Okay. So on Quill insert, if it's text, it just sends the text. If it's not text, if it's the document, then what it does is it builds that merge variable with the image code. And so what this is what we were talking about, the base 64 earlier. What Michael had mentioned is that, here, let's see if we can see that a little bit bigger. Okay, so what it does is it goes and gets the image and then does a base 64 on it. Oh, this is the image source code, the HTML code. And then this right here is FileMaker's base 64 encode function on the graphic. So basically what it turns it into, let me show you that. If I can find it. Oh, there we are. So evaluate. Okay. Nope. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what it does is it will take the graphic in that container field and turn it into base 64, which, as you see, is this big old long bunch of text. But that's so that it can go through the HTTP protocol. So there's two ways you can show a graphic on a web page. You can either point to another location on the web to a graphic, or you can supply it with base 64 and it will reinterpret the base 64 into a graphic. And so that's how it shows those signatures. So we convert it to base 64 and we substitute into that text field. So let me show you the page for that. For that record. So here's the HTML. So there's the hello there's the letter. But when it gets down to the image, right here, this image source, data, image, PNG, base 64, and then there's all this. That's the base 64 that every web browser knows to convert. Web browser, Webviewer, any web engine knows to convert that to a graphic. And up at the top, it says that it's a PNG, so it knows to make it a PNG. And so that's how it shows that in the web viewer, is this code here is that signature. The rest of it is all just the text. And you see the various HTML coding in there, the formatting and stuff. So The next thing that I've been working on, so that's how you get the signatures in. That's how, and it's just a simple substitute function on the text at that location to get the merge variable in there. The next thing I did, and this is where I'm in the middle of finishing up now, is taking this and making it into a PDF, because right now it's HTML. So here, okay, so here's one. Oh, one more thing. There is and I can post that in the documentation when we do the video, is when you there's Matt Petrowski did a nice video. It was actually several years ago where he used a library that was basically a command line tool that you call, and it will take and supply it with some HTML, and it'll give you a PDF in return. But it's got a massive number of options that you can send to it, so you can create all kinds of stuff with HTML to PDF. So anyway, so what this does, basically, I've just done a few things. Because its default page size is A4, I've changed the page size to letter, and then I've specified a minimum font size, because when I printed them out, the text was really small. So I've been experimenting with that. But basically what it does, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to find an empty one. And so, like I said, I'm still working with it. I'm still playing with the options and stuff, but it'll be a thing where the user can click a button on a particular person and say, okay, which letter do you want to send to this person? And it goes and gets the form letter, and sticks their name in, and creates a PDF for it. So right now, I don't have the merge. I haven't done the merge part of it yet, but the PDF works really well. So there's a script here that basically it calls this command line tool that says build me a PDF, and so then I can I'll export that. It calls everything the same name at this point, which is this thing right here, and so here's what it does. Oh, we have a wild character. Oops. I'm going to have to play with that. So I probably need to do some substitutions to take care of some of that. But anyway, oh, it did that when it made the conversion. It doesn't like that. I'll bet you I need to specify I hadn't seen that before. Probably need to specify a font, not a font, but
An apostrophe.
it is a curved apostrophe in there.
Yeah,
So-
and the curved is the problem. It needs to be a straight single quote for the HTML to accept it as.
Okay, so then what I need to probably do is encode it.
No, you need to make it a straight quote so that the HTML doesn't break when it gets to printing it.
Okay,
There is an HTML apostrophe or ampersand apostrophe code, but if you just use the non-curly quotes, it won't break once you get it to the web viewer or printed.
right, which means I'm going to have to substitute it because it sticks in the curly quote automatically. So
Maybe that's a function of the,
it might be the settings on my computer too,
yeah.
because I'm a curly quote kind of guy.
Yeah. And then
So
that happens a lot though when people take text that they have pasted in and then try to show it on the web. It substitutes that for the double byte character, and as you see, it's not your single quote that you wanted.
yeah, so what I need to do is just look for those and substitute them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but so that let me show you. Matt Petrowski did this marvelous video, and he did a demo file where he basically had a simple text editor here that was very simple. This is not Quill JS here, but it's just a place where he can, and actually it doesn't even edit over here. He edits it over here. So basically this just displays the contents of a couple of fields. It's very simple HTML here that uses data from a couple of fields. But he also has, so there's a couple of divs he sets up, and then also he's got the ability to enter some CSS in here, and then here's where he puts the command options, and the command line tool that runs that makes this happen has all these has this ability to take any CSS, and there's like dozens upon dozens of command options that you can control the page and text and do all kinds of stuff with that. So I will post this file. Now probably you need a membership to Matt Petrowski, to his newsletter to get this. I'll write him and see if I can. Well, we'll see if we can make this available to everybody. But basically,
like $35 a year, right, or something?
it's $35 a quarter.
Oh, is it a quarter? Okay.
Yeah. But I can definitely put a link to this wkhtml to PDF. This is a website that that has information about this command line tool. And like I said, this is like 2014 that he did this demo. So it seems to work really well still. The problem is you have to install it. It's not like a easily installed plugin. But it is free. So my goal was to install it on the server and then run all of the PDF conversions, just perform script on server. So
Were you able to do that?
he said that you can in his video, so that's what I was going to do. Okay. And so that way, all I need to do is install it once. I don't have to install it on everybody's machine.
Yeah.
Now I usually like to do plugins where I'll create a I'll create a page of plugins in the solution. So I'll stick plugins in container fields, and then I'll check to see if the person has that plugin, and then automatically install it. Standard way to install plugins, a lot of people do, and so it works out really well. But these things don't actually install like regular plugins, so I might have to do some command line work if I was going to do that. But to save myself that trouble, I'll just install it on the server and have it all work. Perform script on server, and that should take care of it, and it'll stick the PDFs in those fields. But then that will allow me to create. So I mean, what's happening here is we've got this library of letters that the users can create and then apply them when they're doing when they've got a like a new hire or something like that. They can choose, I want, click a button and I want this letter to go to this person, and it would just fill it in and build the PDF out of their library of letters. So that's what I'm working on still. I don't have that fully fleshed out yet, but these tools have enabled me to do that. So I'll put some notes. I'll write up some notes in the video note area with links to some of this stuff. So, but I ran over that a little bit fast, and I apologize. The basically in the documentation, there are some things like, oh, if you know where you want to put it, you can just say insert text. So that's what this is here. So that's why every time I change the location, it sends a call to a FileMaker script that saves that value. So if we go into the data viewer, we can see, come on. Sorry, okay, there we go. So we see here the position, I'm at the very beginning, so that's 0. So if I hit, say full name, like I had there before, and it loses the cursor. So if we put that back in there, now we see the position says 13. So every time you move and see, watch where that position marker is there. Every time you move the position, it sends a call to a FileMaker script that all that script does is save that location. So it keeps a constant watch on where the cursor is, so that when you hit one of these buttons, it already knows where the cursor is. So then it calls the script in the JavaScript and says, hey, I'd like to stick this piece of text in at that location. So David Geller just joined us. Hey, David. I'm just finishing up. I'm sorry, buddy. But we recorded it, so you can watch the video. Does anybody have any questions? I know I went over it a little bit fast and kind of glossed over some things. Does anybody want to know anything specific about what I did? You're like, totally. Oh man, I have no idea what he's doing. I'm sorry.
No, it was very good, Jonathan. These people just have to get in there and play with it and see what happens.
Well, and that's kind of what I did with Michael's file.
Yeah.
Is I went in there and I said, oh man, how many of those windows do I have? I want this one. So in that text, where you put the JavaScript code is in the the web address. They call it web address, but it's basically the custom web address, which is basically, as Michael said, data, text, HTML. This is when you're just telling it what you want it to show. You're not pointing it to any place on the internet. You're just saying, okay, I want this stuff to be inside this. So this is the thing that you use the most when you're doing custom stuff and integrations and stuff in the web viewer, is this data text thing. And then the rest of it is just getting familiar with the Quill documentation. And then Michael's file already has a good deal of this in there. So like this one, this script here, that so he was talking about the text change is a function in the Quill API. So, and then this on means it's an event handler. It says when you on text change, do this. And so, and then here basically it's kind of similar to FileMaker in like a let function where you define some variables and then you do something with them. And so what that does is it just builds this stuff here and then says, okay, now perform the FileMaker script called Quill save text with the value, the JSON object that I just created. And so that's it's fairly straightforward. You got to wrap your brain around a little bit different syntax, but once you see that, and I don't know JSON syntax very well, so basically all I did was just copy everything he did and just made a few changes to it because I couldn't write raw JSON or a JavaScript to save my life. So I just copied and pasted and changed a few of the parameters and stuff, and it worked. So anyway, so I do not consider myself a JavaScript person, but I was able to make this work, and so I was really pleased with that. So anyway. Does anybody else have any questions? So David, you're the only person that we didn't get to talk to today about who you are. And so, oh, wait a minute, let me finish out this video. So thank you everybody for coming today. And I'm going to stop the recording. And the button is right there.